Welcome to Commander Pop Culture, a place to gather magical information with some laughs, might I add. Hello everyone, welcome. This is a deck tech for Loot, the key to everything. Call it orthodontist needed because clearly they have some serious oral concerns.
You one ugly mother...
This is a budget list. It's $99 for you to build in paper. It's even cheaper for you to build for Moto. I'm not going to go over the removal, the ramp, and the board wipes unless it offers some kind of synergistic piece. The key to Loot here is that you want a diversity of permanent types, and the reason why you want diversity is because for each permanent type on upkeep you get to rip the top of your library and exile them to play for that turn. There is a concern. I'm not the type of person to let things go to waste, so my biggest worry is hitting multiple lands. I have all the things to let you play multiple lands a turn on a budget. This has also got a sub-theme of Planeswalkers because that is one of the permanent types you care about. I didn't include battles because you have to wait a full revolution of the table to get your trigger. Battles are available for all your opponents to attack, and people would welcome it. You want the battle to stay in play, and then it flips over and it becomes a permanent you probably already have. The one time you want battles to not flip over, kind of can't solve the mechanic of battles, unfortunately. They suck. It's just a permanent type that I'm ignoring purposely, just for the phenomenon that people will do the favor for you of killing them. First off, we have Jace, Architect of Thought. Now, Planeswalkers are hard to protect, so I wanted to have Planeswalkers that do that themselves. I want to make it as inconvenient for my opponents to attack my Planeswalkers as possible. The reason why they're such a fragile permanent type is because everyone could gang up on you with their creatures and take care of the problem that way. Jace does that by reducing their power, and that affects everybody's creatures until your next turn. Other things that I care about from Planeswalkers is I really want their ultimate effect to be something that's backbreaking.
All your money!
I want to be pursuing something worth pursuing, and then the minus middle ability is usually just a value piece. Like if I'm ever in a situation where I can't protect it, or I predict that it's going to die anyways, I want a decent effect from the negative ability as well. Sarkon the Masterless. This lets you put a 4/4 dragon into play and does damage to creatures, so little rinky-dink boards like to go wide. This is a nice crux against those decks. He also turns your Planeswalkers into creatures. It's a nice little win condition. Teferi Temporal Archmage lets you give you card advantage with the plus, lets you ramp with the minus ability, or makes your game plan defensive because you could attack with a bunch of things and then untap them main phase 2. The minus 10 lets you activate Planeswalker abilities on other people's turns, so that means before it gets around to your turn you have a chance to activate it on each person's turn. Also very game breaking and a win condition from your Planeswalker pool. Tamiyo Completed Sage. I liked her -7 a lot because another concern you're going to have is exiling big expensive things. I do have a low curve. It's 2.25, which ain't bad. If you have all the permanents in play, that means you're going to be exiling 4 things a turn, and that can be quite mana taxing. The -7 gives you an artifact that reduces the cost of stuff by 2. And lets you draw a card. It also protects itself by tapping something down indefinitely. You get to make a copy of a non-land permanent. That's pretty dope. Garruk Primal Hunter makes a body protect itself and draws cards equal to power among creatures you control. Its -6 is scary since this is a landfall deck. You get to put 6 6s into play for each land you control.
We are worms!
Nissa Voices Zendikar makes a plant to block, gets put counters on your whole board, and then it's -7 lets you draw X cards, gain X life, where X is the number of lands you control. Perfect. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. She's just a value piece. She kind of acts like a little bit of everything. Most Planeswalkers that have more than 3 abilities have this kind of effect where they just cover all the bases. You get card advantage out of her, you get ramp out of her, you have removal from her, and then you have a pretty scary win condition in her -7 where whenever you cast a spell, doesn't matter what kind, you deal 5 damage to a creature or player. Most of the Chandras that have this ability care about instants or sorceries. This one particular does not care what it is, which is great because I'm evenly spread amongst amongst card type permanents, and that's because that's what Loot wants you to do. You want to consistently have diversity in your permanents in play. So I have 13 planeswalkers, 19 creatures, 11 artifacts, and 9 enchantments. Ideally, I would like to take cards from my creature package and help out with the artifacts and enchantments, but I feel like the creatures are super integral and super dense to your game plan that you can't really afford to do that. The enchantments are perfect for what you want to be doing. Once you go beyond these, they get incredibly expensive monetary-wise, or doesn't fit the themes that your deck wants to be doing, other than that it's meeting the permanent requirement. And I don't want to be doing that. I want my cards to make people sweat with every single thing that I play. Kiora, Master of Depths. This lets you untap a creature in a land, so you get protection with some extra value. Card advantage from the -2, and then its -8 is a scary ability of whenever a creature comes into play, you fight something, and then you put 3 8/8 octopuses into play. This is the Phyrexian Nissa, sorry. It's just the cheapest version, because I want it to be affordable for all my viewers. Its +1 lets you make a token that is XX based on the number of lands you control. It's a landfall deck, so it's going to be really big. And it has a huge amount of loyalty. You could pay 4 life and invest 5 mana to have 8 loyalty in the battlefield. That's incredibly hard for your opponents to deal with, and you make a scary body to protect it. Its -1 lets you blow up an artifact or enchantment, and its -7 is a overrun effect. Chandra Awakened Inferno. The loyalty so high that it protects itself that way. Only now you're going to be doing a damage to everyone on their upkeeps. And then its -3 is a board wipe. It protects itself that way. Its -X is a single target removal effect. Nissa the Battle Force protects itself by making a body out of your lands. Can return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. And then its -6, which is incredibly easy to do. This is one of the most broken planeswalkers in Magic's history. You could ult it with only a single revolution of the table. +1 it, protect itself. It's at 6 loyalty, and then you -6 it, and then now your lands cantrip, which is one of the most powerful effects in Magic. Lands aren't meant to cantrip. They're not meant to replace themselves.
It's strictly taboo.
But when they do, you'll always have a grip of cards to play with. And since this deck's about making multiple land drops a turn, you'll have a lot of gas to cook with. Wrenn and Realm Breaker protects itself by animating a land. -2 lets you mill 3 cards and put a permanent card from that pile into your hand. You're playing with 92 permanents, so you should hit something with that -2 ability if you're desperate. And its -7 lets you play lands and permanents from your graveyard, which basically says your opponents are screwed unless they exile your graveyard. Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes, makes a body to protect itself passively. It happens on ETB and on upkeep.
Your mother was a hamster!
And then it's +1, you put 3 counters on a creature and gives it trample and haste. 99% of the time you just use it to block. What I like about these planeswalkers that also put permanents into play is it also helps diversify permanent count for loot. This guy pulls a lot of extra duties, and then it's -2, shoots something, and draws you a bunch of cards. Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. This is one of the very few permanents that trigger when your planeswalkers are attacked. And if they don't pay 3 mana, you make a 3/3 blocker. Goblin and Archomancer. You're effectively making a coupon for everything in your library. It's sneakily better than people give it credit for, and probably will get overlooked a bunch, but I particularly wanted coupons that can affect all my permanent types, and Goblin and Archomancer does it quite nicely on a budget. Tachiova, Benthic Druid, has the same effect that I talked about in the Nissa Planeswalker, only this one gains you life as well. Tachiova is one of also the most broken legendary creatures in the game. Not only does it breaks your lands, but it also gains you life, so it makes it incredibly hard to kill you with an aggressive strategy. Doc Arlok, Grizzled Genius, reduces the costs of your exiled pile by 2. One of the best cards that you could draw in your game. Faldorn, Dread Herald Wolf. This person triggers whenever you cast or play lands from your exile. You make a 2/2 wolf. This is strictly in here for value play, and it makes your board so wide and helps you protect your planeswalkers. It also has card advantage printed on it. You discard a card to exile the top of your library and feed into itself. Omnath, Locust of Rage. Make a land, make a 5/5 body, and whenever an elemental dies, you lightning bolt something. Rampaging Balos, make a 4/4 on landfall trigger. Mean Den gives you an extra land drop, and you can return a land to your hand to give something trample. Deep Glow Skate to double your counters on your planeswalkers. Evolution Sage, landfall trigger to to proliferate, Flux Channeler to proliferate on non-creature spells. You got a lot. There are 42 non-creature spells. Wayward Swordtooth, once you play an additional land, it has Ascend. Not the best at playing defensively because you need 10 perms in play, but you rack it up pretty fast. I would be surprised if you play this and don't have Ascend. If not, you'll get there pretty fast. Tireless Provisioner, this helps you cast things from your exile pile. Every time you make a land, you make a treasure. Scoot Swarm, this is a win condition from landfall. Make a 1/1. If you have 6 or more, you make copies of it, and then it exponentially gets bigger. Venture Zendikar, I haven't played one of these in a while. I haven't played a landfall deck in a long time.
And the time has come for plants to take back the world so rightfully ours.
This one is another win condition. It makes a bunch of plants based on lands and then puts counters on your plants with every subsequent play. Oracle Moldai lets you play lands from the top of your library, gives you an additional land drop. I almost don't really care about the value of playing from the top of your library. I care more about the additional land drop and making sure I don't let my loot triggers go to waste. But you can make the deck hum real well with Oracle because then you set up your next upkeep to hit all the permanent types with loot. Silent Arbiter, this makes it incredibly hard to attack you. They can only attack you with one creature. It's just one of the very few things that protect your planeswalkers. Lotus Cobra does the same effect as Tireless Tracker. Azusa, Lost at Seeking lets you play 2 lands, so in a turn you could play 3. She's one of the best that you could have in your deck. I know I said I wouldn't talk about the board wipe package, but since this is a planeswalker deck, I'm running an excessive amount. Constantly keep your planeswalkers safe that way. There are, I think, 6 or 7 board wipes in this deck. If you don't have one in your hand, that'd be bizarre. They all somehow ended up in like the bottom 4th of your library. That'd just be unfortunate luck. Highly unlikely. Genesis Wave is a fun win condition. You will have a ton of mana in play. In my playtesting of this deck, I've been finding that I've been putting 3 to 4 lands a turn consistently, and by the time we get around to Genesis Wave, you should be casting it for X equals 20 or something ridiculous. The only unfortunate thing is if you end up exiling this to loot, then it pigeonholes you to casting it or not casting it at all. That's like the worst case scenario. And that's probably the only feel bad when playing this deck. That's the sacrifice of getting insane card advantage from your command zone. A fair price to pay, I think. Helm of Awakening, this is a symmetrical effect. It helps your opponents, but since you're going to be getting more cards than everybody else, hypothetically, you're going to get a lot more mileage than anybody else. It's great because it affects all your cards. Girper Orrery, this lets you play additional lands. In our Hellbent, you get to draw 3 cards. Also symmetrical, but I rarely see people Hellbent in Commander anymore because card advantage is king. And if you're helping the guy that's Hellbent, then they probably need it.
See? Not such a bad guy after all.
The Chain Veil, this lets you double your activations of your planeswalkers, which is particularly brutal. You already saw my planeswalker list. They all protect themselves. That means double the protection and double the advancement towards their game-breaking ultimates. Very affordable on a budget. It's only $350. Lost of the Dam, this does a similar effect to Faldorn. Whenever you cast or play a land from exile, you make a 3/3 red spawn. Slightly better than a wolf. Excited to play this. This will be one of the very first cards I've ever played from the Warhammer sets because the Warhammer decks didn't become available on Moto until like 2 months ago, and they were only available to buy for a month. I picked them up because of the sick value, and I'm excited to play this uncommon. Valakut Exploration, this is like crack in your game plan. It combos really well with your sub-theme of playing multiple lands a turn. On top of exiling stuff with loot, you exile stuff with Valakut Exploration, and I've never not seen 3 to 4 cards per turn. It's super good. And then in the event that you can't cast something, you shoot each opponent for a bunch of damage. Prison the Moon to deal with really scary commanders because it effectively neuters them by turning them into lands. It's a permanent that's hard to get rid of. Same with Song of the Dryads. And it also boosts my enchantment count. Druid class, slightly ineffective at enabling the additional land per turn, but helps deal with aggro strategies on the first level. Get to gain life off your land drops. Rites of Flourishing, additional land drop, and lets you draw an additional card. Symmetrical for everybody. Inexorable Tide, proliferate on any spell. Slightly better than Flux Channeler because Inexorable Tide triggers on your creatures as well. Case of the Locked Hot House, lets you play an additional land, and then after you solve it, lets you play all the permanent types you want to see from the top of your library. That includes creatures, enchantments, and lands. Does a lot of extra duties. My land package is strictly for fixing. There's not a lot of utility with the exception of Ghost Quarter. there. I just like that it's cheap to blow up a land. If you can't tell, I only had to invest $16 into my mana base, and all of my non-basics come in untapped, with the exception of the lands that could either fetch for any color or taps for any color. You shouldn't suffer any tempo issues. The Evolving Wilds, the Terramorphic, and the Escape Tunnel, they all pull extra synergy pieces because it gives you more landfall counts. But that brings us to the end of my deck that I'm calling the Orthodontist Needed. If you stuck around this long, I make a lot of deck techs. Maybe I've made something in my past, or I intend on building things in my future that are just from Thunder Junction. If you go to my community tab, you could see what I intend on playing, and there's a lot on the docket. I've already played the 4 most popular commanders, and now I'm playing the middle 4, and then on the back end I'll play the last 4 popular, but this set of 4 will be Lute, Vihan, Sataru, and Kellen. That'll build and play, and then I'll do the last 4. This set's super exciting to me. It's rare for me to like this many commanders from one set. Hope I helped you out. If you want to build your own Lute deck, I think I have a list for you if you want to save some money and have a powerful game plan at the same time. Everyone take care now.